Shalom. This is Hawood. I just recorded a video, y'all. Literally, I was just talking about some stuff, and I was expounding on why my situation with my wife didn't work out, and literally it was like because the Most High he pulled me out of the house. That's what he did. But because I had got a couple comments about it, so I didn't post it though. And I told you guys I was gonna read this book for y'all. Now listen, this is for the brothers and sisters that keep asking me the name of the book. When I first start the video like I'm doing right now, I literally show you the name of the book and I say who wrote the book. And this is DRUIDS, Preachers of Immortality by Ann Ross. I do this every single time, y'all. So you gotta, I don't know if you're not looking at the video, you might be listening to it, because that's what I do. I listen to a lot of people's videos unless I know they have pictures in them. You know what I mean? So, but I'm going to get to this part. I got to remember where it was at. I know I folded the page. I hope I folded the page. Right? That would be nice, right? Well, you know what? I know what I can do. I think it's in the table of contents. I know it when I see it. Alright, so yeah, this is it. I think this is where it's at right here. Where this guy has this thing on his head. Hold on, y'all. I just want to make sure this is what I was reading. Don't be late. Oh. Alright, I'm not sure if this is it, but I'm gonna jump on this real quick just so you can get some type of understanding what's going on here. Alright. Samson was a 5th century saint of Welsh province. But his Vita was written in Brittany. Perhaps in the first quarter of the 7th century. He was believed, sorry, I go with changing words. He was believed to have been chosen by God. Alright, let me show y'all this. I don't know if y'all can see it. There it is. And then I'll show y'all the words. Okay. Alright. Which gave him the sanctity unparalleled in the age in which he was to live. His mother had been barren until, in a dream, she was told of the coming of a son who would be a man of God. The child, and the boy named Samson, was to become a disciple of the renowned abbot Tud. Apart from the Veda's clear biblical association, it is obvious that the hagiographer was influenced by pagan Celtic religious iconographic and themes. Thus, we are told that Tud, that's a crazy name, with whom Samson studied, was a learned magician, druid by birth, and was gifted with second sight. The use of this term, magicus, is reminiscent enough of the Druid world for a number of scribes to correct it to magnifus. Sansom kills a snake and tames a witch who brandishes a bloody trident. Following his ordination as bishop, fire comes from his mouth and nostrils. All right, so this says, see further, Ross, 1967 and 1992. Hold on, let me drink this. Drying up here. The snake plays an important role in pagan Celtic cults. Maca, one of the three war goddesses who could assume various forms, especially the crow or raven, appeared as a vicious serpent which twisted itself round the legs of the hero. Ku Chilian, when he was fighting in a single combat with his Kanach enemy in her bed, to destroy him. The reason for her enmity was that he had refused her sexual advances. So she wanted him dead because she wanted something. And that's something. In Celtic mythology, the serpent was frequently portrayed in the iconography as having ram's horns or a horned ram's head. It is particularly associated with the stag god. What is this? Cernunnos, the horned, and with the cult of healing waters. Saint Brigid, who lived at the beginning of the 7th century, in many ways resembled the goddess Sul of Aku, Solace, Bath, and had like her a perpetually blazing fire which was never allowed to be extinguished and was guarded by 9 virgins in her foundation of Kildare. No man was allowed to enter the sanctuary. There are many early Celtic tales in which fire plays an important role. The Druids, according to the classics, believed that the world would never end, but that from time to time fire and water would prevail. There are many examples of Celtic mythology of deities, demons, and animals which breathe forth fire. The Druids believed that they could control the elements and indeed claimed to have created the world. So right here in this book, I just backed up what our brother Judah was talking about as far as about the Brahmin, which is our people, which are Druids. They could control the elements. This man just witnessed that too, because it's right here. I just read it to you. So I'll read it again. It says, the Druids believed that they could control the elements. He knew like hell they could. Ain't no belief. Ain't nobody gonna sit there and say they can do something and can't do it. They knew they could do it, and indeed claimed to have created the world. Hey, they are also, in which that's true, capable of transforming others and themselves. In one version of the cattle raid, I can't say this, a Kuling or something like that, they are described as wandering about amongst the stones in the form of deer. And so our people could transform into animals too. Yo, this is crazy. It's like seriously just like the Marvel, what you call them, you know, all the different people, X-Men, they got all those different powers. But there's no such thing as magic is evil, right? Okay. Keep believing that. The spirit of the Druids remain as an essential element in the new faith of Christianing. See that? So, just like Big Judah was reading when he said that they took it and they just twisted everything up. And that's exactly what they did. Of the Celtic world. It was not, however, their darker pagan powers that persist, but their learning and education. Their role as teachers, as poets, and prophets. The word Druid was heavily expurgated from the textile material, so they got rid of it. But the Druids were never quite banished from Celtic society. They were highly learned and had thus much to contribute to the rich intellectual heritage of Ireland. In Wales, likewise, the name, what is this, Druid. It could be Daweed, but it looks like it says Druid or Derweed. And Dry or Dre tended to disappear, but their powers of poetry and prophecy remained. In the medieval Welsh poem Arms Pryden, the prophecy of Britain, from the book of Taliesin, Williams and Bromwich, 1972. We learn Dice Gogan Dweeden meant Dweed. Wow, okay. Druids foretell all that will happen. Thus, it is in their enduring role as prophets and poets that the Druids have achieved a lasting and acceptable position in the Welsh as in the Irish tradition. It's just funny how they just try to make it like all this stuff is separated and it's this group and that group, and they know that all these people are together. All of them. It's one nation. Alright, I'm trying to find this, y'all. Hold on. This is chapter 9. Some areas of Scottish Highlands would seem to have preserved their pre-Christian or pagan customs and beliefs to a greater extent than others. There are many factors which have dictated such survivals and non-survivals. Perhaps one of the most important of these is the degree of isolation that any given area retained in the changing world, where the old ways were replaced by new, and traditions was despised by the young. And that's actually right now too, because when I was young, we didn't do what the older people did. You know what I'm saying? Like the generation before us. I mean, I will say that my generation did keep the older people's morals. Most of us. We did do that, and we did pass those morals on to our children. Most of us. Some of us went wayward and just didn't care. But for the most part, you know, we did. Now you get to this generation, and you have more than 75% of this generation that don't keep none of the ways that we were taught. Not a dime of it. The children don't even address their elders as ma'am or sir or even mister. They want to call you by your first name like y'all best friends. So that means a 15-year-old little boy will walk up to me, and instead of saying Mr. Greg, he would say, hey, Greg. And that's this generation. This generation has gone wayward. I mean, They don't want to keep none of the old ways, nothing. They want to do everything their way. You know what I mean? So I'm just had to put that out there. Central Perthshire is an area that kept alive a rich store of archaic customs and beliefs, tales, and legends until the Second World War brought about the breakdown of such practices in a way that the first had failed completely to eradicate. Two very strange and ancient practices, which in an earlier Celtic world would have been very much under the authority of the Druids, still survive in a actilated form until the middle of the 12th century, at least, although their true significance had undoubtedly been lost. Both are centered in the wild, remote, and beautiful mountainous region of Glen Lyon in Perthshire. The very entrance to the glen is also dramatic and awe-inspiring beginning of the Fortingale, with the great church standing guardian, as it were, against the forces of paganism that until very recent still had a considerable influence on the minds of the people. Two strange water-worn stones, like great lions, guard the gate posts of the sanctuary. In its presence grows an ancient yarrow tree, believed to date back to the time of Pontius Pilate, who was allegedly born there while his father was on military services with the Roman army. A tall story, no doubt, but suggestive of the antiquity of belief in this remote region. Going up the wild glen, the visitor cannot but note the fact that most of the houses have a pair of these strange stones, fashioned into fantastic shapes by their geological composition and the action of the fast-flowing waters of the river Lyon, just into their gateposts. They were believed to have both let me see if I can see this. Amphotropic powers and healing qualities. For the moment, we shall pass by another important site of ancient cult practice until we come to the head of the valley, where a large stretch of water now covers much of what was once the upper glen. This was carried out by the electricity board. I had been told of strange survival of Celtic paganism in the remote regions beyond the flooded territory by a colleague in the University of Edinburgh. It seemed to be so far-fetched, having all the elements of actual pagan practice, that I determined to try to locate it. The story was briefly as follows. A very long time ago, when the upper glen was still populated, and centuries before the artificial loch had been made by flooding the floor of the valley below, there was an especially hard and severe winter. So I think he just said that the river, the Loch River, is artificial. I mean, somebody made it. During the worst of the weather, a remarkable couple was observed coming towards the glen from the mountains. If the man was big, the woman was more than twice his size and heavy with child. Now, hospitality has always been regarded by the Celts of all periods as an essential moral duty. No strangers are turned away, unfed or unsheltered when food and shelter are required. That right there showed you that the Israelites, because that's one of our laws. You can't turn people away. You have to feed the poor or people that's, travelers and stuff. I have seen many examples of this unquestioning care for the traveler while living in the outer isles, in Skye and in mainland highlands. And you know what else is sad? You can't do that today because you'll wind up dead. Even though, if you're doing the will of the Father, He will protect us. But y'all know what I mean. I mean, people are really, and then they bring these wicked spirits with them and all this. It's a lot, And I think we have to learn more how Judah put it, actions, so that we can, thwart anything that may come off of somebody that you're helping. You know what I mean? All right. It is a deeply rooted ancient code of behavior. It is even mentioned in connection with the Celts by classical writers such as Diodorus Siculus, writing the 1st century BC. His history is written between 60-30 BC, and 40 books contains accounts of Greece and Europe in books 4-6. In book 5, he gives this fascinating account of Celtic manners, one of several interesting observations. They also invite strangers to their banquets, and only after the meal do they ask who they are and of what they stand in need. Things did not change easily in the Celtic world. Sadly, that is no longer the case, and the end of the past has very nearly been accomplished. They wiped everything out. They did. They literally, and they did the same thing here. All those customs our people had, they wiped them all out, and we got new, disgusting customs. So mean and nasty to each other. And the sad part is this, right? Not to be going off, but I'm going to go there. I remember when I was in the church, right? And this homeless lady came in the church asking for help. And I think they gave her a plate of food, right? So the next day she came. And they turned her away, right? But they got so irritated. You know what I'm saying? They got really mad. Like, you keep coming here. So I remember saying to the guy, he was a deacon or something, and I said to him, don't you go home and eat every day? I remember telling him this. And he was like, yeah, but there's places they have for that. And I just looked at him like, y'all taking people's money. And y'all won't even help these poor people. You know what I'm saying? I don't care if they got drug afflictions. They will not help nobody unless it benefits them. So just know that. And that really irritated me, man. I'm like, so she's supposed to come here one time. If somebody got to eat every day, they're going to come where they know they can get food from. Like, come on, man. That's just like an animal. It's just sad how, man, our people jacked up. To return to the cult legend, the people of the Upper Glen, without hesitation, gave temporary shelter, food, drink to the huge couple, while they began to build them a house, which would be large enough to contain them. That night, the woman gave birth to a girl child. They were known as the Kalich, hag or goddess, the Bodach, old man, and the Nahim, girl or daughter. They remained with their kind hosts for many years and repaid their trust and hospitality by bringing them good weather, plentiful crops, and a fat stock with a constant supply of rich milk and game sufficient to satisfy the keenest of hunters. When they eventually left as they had come over the mountains, they were remembered in the legend. This was still the case until the glen was flooded and the people left the upper region. But the shepherd remained, and it was his duty to see that the memory of the legendary couple was kept alive. A miniature stone house was at sometime built. 3 river stones worn into crude anthropomorphic form were placed in the house on November Eve, the Celtic New Year. The thatch was removed from the Kalich's house. So they're trying to say that the New Year is in November for the Celtics. This, like, certain stuff you just can't believe. You know what I mean? Because why would the dead of winter, when everything is sleeping or hibernating, whatever word you want to use, resting, it would be a new year, like a new life, a new beginning. Wow, come on, man. So you gotta be careful, man, with people. People sneaky.